Hello, this is Angela Harding from TPM Realty. I am here today to interview the owner of the title company that I prefer to use, somebody that's been in the business a very long time. And for me, I feel as an investor and my investor clients has done a really good job of just forming a great relationship with my clients and being there to answer their questions and to make sure that they're protected in every single transaction that we do. So I will introduce you to Amy Jones, who is the owner of Liberty Title.
Thanks, Angela. I appreciate that introduction. As you mentioned, I'm Amy Jones, the owner of Liberty Title. We've been in business 20 years this January. So yeah, I guess you could say I've been doing it for a little while. I think I did it for 10 years prior to that. So
Oh, wow.
30 years. It doesn't seem like I'm old enough, right?
I don't think we look old enough.
Thank you. I'll pay
How
you
can
later.
we be? Yeah, what were we born in? 89, I think?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, I'm going to talk to Amy a little bit about why title companies are so important for investors and real estate transactions in general. We have a lot of people that we see are just quit claiming properties around, not getting their title insurance. I got a call about one of my recent transactions where the guy was getting foreclosed on because apparently a previous lien didn't get paid off. He didn't know what to do, and I just referred him right to the title company. And I said, "You have title insurance?" Something could have went wrong. And a lot of times the banks, the right hand don't know what the left hand's doing. So chances are it was actually paid off. So, and there's proof, and the title company handles all that for you. So this is one thing that I got to ask, and it wasn't
Sure.
on the sheet. What's the craziest thing you've seen with
Oh, wow.
title stuff? Like, I mean, for me in property management, I walked in on dead people.
Oh,
I walked in
my
on drug
gosh.
deals. But what's the craziest thing you've
Yes.
probably seen?
Well, we pride ourselves in doing the closings anytime, any place, anywhere. So the craziest one that I personally have closed was on the Ohio Turnpike for a truck driver on the rest stop, whatever. Met him at the rest stop and did the closing right then and there.
Oh, well, that's one of the reasons why I do like Liberty Title is because they do have a close it anytime, anywhere philosophy. So while we're sitting
We
in
do.
Toledo, Ohio right now, I know that Amy's able to step outside of these bounds and make things happen to make sure these closings are done very conveniently, especially for my investors, like I said, because we're not all local, we're all over the place. So they
true.
do a lot of out-of-state closings, even out-of-the-country closings, which can get kind of
We do.
Kinda hairy.
We have. Yep. They sometimes do. We have to find a U.S. consulate office in order to conduct the closing, but they so far so good, right? We've been
Yeah.
able to find places where these people that are out of the country can close. We're dabbling in some RON closings, the remote online notaries. So people that are tech savvy can get into that with us if they have, the abilities and want to figure these sorts
Yeah.
of things out. But it's coming in the near future. I know lenders are a little hesitant on them yet. So mostly what we've been doing is cash sales with the remote online notaries. But yeah, we're very tech savvy and we have the abilities to close anytime, any place, anywhere. We're licensed in Ohio, Michigan, and Florida. So the properties have to be located in those 3 states. But no matter where they are, like we've done people that are on vacation in Mexico and we've, like I said, found a U.S. consulate's office and done the closing. Or let's say they live in California, but they have property here in Toledo. We can send a closer right to their doorstep wherever they are in California and close them. Just some of the examples of making things convenient for the investor.
Well, that's awesome because that's what I was going to ask. What makes Liberty so much different than some of the other larger companies? And I think that's what we talked about, your tech and your travel.
And then we also talked about the whole making them feel like family, not like they're just a number. So we just spoke about this
Yeah.
earlier about making them feel like they're at the bar cheers where everybody knows their name. We truly do give that atmosphere here where they're not just a number. We know them. I noticed when you walked in, I heard Sharon say, "Hey, Angela,"
Yep.
like knew exactly who you were. And that's the way, exactly the way that we conduct business. It's where everybody knows your name and you're going to get friendly.
The whole Cheers atmosphere.
Yes.
Go where everybody
absolutely.
knows your name.
Yes.
Yeah, we need that back in business.
We do.
And I know I've had to close at a couple other title companies where, I've done a lot of business in this town.
Mhm.
And they have maybe hired somebody new, and I was not treated to where
The way
I
you've been
felt
used to
was
being
nice,
treated.
you know,
Yes, yes.
they didn't know who I was. And when you're walking in with some, clients that are investing here, and you have a team of people that they know you when they call, so they can answer your questions if you have a question.
Right.
That's what Liberty gives to everybody, for sure. Absolutely, for sure.
We certainly pride ourselves on that. So thank you.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about why you're here as a title company and what title insurance does, what you're trying to protect people from,
Sure.
and why it's so important.
Absolutely. So no one loves paying for title insurance, but I always say it's a one-time premium paid when you purchase the house. You never have to pay it again. So it's not reoccurring like your homeowner's insurance or your auto insurance. You pay it one time and you're protected for the entire time that you own the house. Even after, once you sell the house, if anything comes to light, any kind of lien or anything like that, the title company is not responsible, and you're not responsible for making that payment. So you're completely protected. I know there's a lot of talk in the news lately about title protection and, you can pay us $99 and you will make sure to insure your title. That stuff is all garbage. And I know it's scaring people because my dad will call me once a month and say, Amy, can you check the title on my house? I want to make sure nobody's stolen the title. So these TV commercials are put out there to scare people. If you pay for title insurance, you're protected. You never have to, buy any kind of additional coverage that you see on TV or get an offer through the mail. You are completely protected, like I said, for the entire time that you own the house, even after you sell the house. So it's even taken me some time to convince my dad that these things are protected.
That's amazing. I didn't even have that question, but I had some investors contact me on properties that they had owned out of state where somebody was actually filing deeds on them. So
Yes.
Title insurance even comes into effect after they bought it. So if
After
somebody
they bought it, yep.
comes along and takes your deed and sells your house to somebody else, you don't have to
title insurance
go
protects
get a
you.
whole attorney to chase down your stuff. You just
Exactly.
contact your title company, your title insurance,
And your
and you
title
say,
insurance
okay.
covers all of that. So I always tell people who are buying, if you're using a lender, they're going to force you to purchase title insurance.
Right.
But if you're paying cash, it's your choice, right? It's optional. You don't have to purchase it. But that's just some of the reason why I say I personally would never buy a house without purchasing title insurance.
That's incredible. Because all this deed scamming is going around.
It is.
I have some investors that are taking one of their other LLCs and leaning their properties just so that it's not free and clear. And I'm like, wow, we're spending all this time just trying to
Right.
imagine that this would happen, where if you have that title insurance, you don't
It's
even have
worth
to
it
go
for
to
the peace
those
of
extra
mind that
steps.
it's not that expensive for the peace of mind that it gives you, truly.
That's awesome. Wow, let me think. I'm so shocked that we brought that up because we've
Just
been
came to
dealing.
light, right?
It's all over the place.
It
Like
is.
California, it's really bad. They're just stealing titles left and right.
Yeah.
So that's just super awesome.
Yep.
Now, something that I'm going to ask you, I'm not sure if you know this answer to this or not. This just came to my mind because I answer questions on Bigger Pockets, which is a big web-based program of investors, and a lot of people are taking their properties where that was in their personal name and they're transferring it over into their LLC.
Sure.
Now, when you change title like that, does that pretty much void your title insurance? Should you re-up your title insurance? Because I know that you get a discount if you buy it and then you sell
You
it.
do.
You're going to get a discount on your owner's policy when you sell it.
You're right.
So if I'm going to switch it into an LLC, should I be calling you up and going, hey, I'm going to make a transfer in my title. Can I reissue my title insurance, or should I reissue my title
You really
insurance?
should, because that that could be challenging to say that, well, I'm the owner of that LLC, so it should still fall under the same policy, because once you change a deed, it's considered in the eyes of, title insurance that it was a changed
And
hand.
ownership.
Yeah, and ownership.
Wow, that's another good thing that I just learned.
Mhm.
Because I talk to people so much about asset protection and what they do in carrying properties in LLCs. Some people do them in trusts.
Right.
I mean, every state is different too, so you always got to look
Right,
at
so
your
you have to
local
look
laws.
at your local laws, absolutely.
Because, well, in Florida, wholesaling is it's protected by the law.
Mhm.
But here in Ohio, wholesaling by the underwriters is kind of frowned upon.
Right.
And there's very little people who will do double closings
The laws are so stringent in Ohio on us for that. In Ohio, we can't even touch those double closings.
Yep. And now I know that there are like 2 companies that people refer you to in Ohio for doing those double closings. And what I mean by double closings is I'm talking about I have got a house that I'm selling, and somebody comes along and contracts it for a certain price and then turns around and sells it to a third person at another price. And in order for the second person in the transaction, which is the buyer from me, to close my end, he's going to use the person's money from the third transaction. Okay. Now, if we did this transaction where this morning I'm going in and I'm signing the deed and my buyer is closing out and bringing the money for his transaction and closing on it, that's fine.
Right.
And then say the other person comes in the next day and closes their transaction, or even if they come in, as long as everybody's bringing their own money,
Right.
it's not considered a double closing.
Correct.
A double closing is when the final buyer in the transaction brings their money and it's going to pay off everybody all the way back to the original seller. That's what I mean by double closings.
Yeah.
So, and that is something that underwriters for title companies do not want to see here in Ohio.
Correct.
Which on a whole nother topic, we could talk about how to actually do transactions that are more backed by underwriting guidelines. But for now, just be really specific in telling people that's not a good idea.
Right.
Because there's so many sales out there. Oh, you can do this. Oh, you can do that. And
Right.
again, everything is state by state.
It is, yes. You have to check your local laws there.
And sometimes just because they say they're going to do it doesn't mean that you're protected down the line. It could void
100%.
insurance. It could void the transaction
Yes.
in general.
Right. So you're really taking a risk
Yep.
if that state doesn't permit them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we're learning
Scary
a lot.
stuff.
It's like Michigan. You can't do land trusts, but in
Right.
Ohio you can
In
do
Ohio,
land
you
trusts.
can. Yeah.
In Michigan, a land trust is not even considered a viable transaction. Actually, you don't even have ownership.
Right.
So Ohio, you can. So again, all your state laws, and talk to your title companies if you're changing title on what's insurable and what isn't, because
Right.
they know, because they got to follow the laws for the state.
Very true.
Awesome information.
Yes.
True.
Good stuff.
So our next conversation, we're going to have specific to rental properties, because a lot of people do not even realize what happens to security deposits if they have a tenant in the unit and they purchase it. So leases run with the land, and that means your security deposit's going to run too. So as a buyer of a rental property that has a tenant in it, you want to make sure you review that lease. There's a whole lot more that goes into when you're buying with a tenant in it. But when we go to closing, we are going to look at the rent credit, any rent that's been paid in advance.
Mm-hmm.
When you pay rent on the 1st, it pays in advance for the month. So if you're closing on the 15th, you have 15 days of rent credit towards you. The next thing comes that security deposit. So for me as a property management company, I always say, no, don't put the security deposit on the settlement statement. I'm going to forward it to the new owner because I hold it in trust. But not all management companies are maybe on the up and up like that.
Right.
And not all people are always comfortable with that.
Mhm.
So you're going to recommend that the security deposit goes on the settlement,
statement, right? So that it'll be a credit for the new buyer.
and that will go towards the money they have to put down on it.
Yes.
But it also means that they've gotten the security deposit back. So they really do in Ohio need to keep that in a separate fund. So
They
you're going to
really
have to
should.
replenish it.
Right.
Yep.
Very good advice.
So the title company handles all that. What else do you see as far as investors go that maybe you see more questions on? Anything?
You know what? I've been seeing a lot of people hesitant with the negative press lately on, interest rates and things like that, and a lot of fear in investing lately. I don't know if you've seen
Really?
that or not in your world, but in our world we have. And to that, I always think to myself, the first house that I bought was 8.5% interest rate.
Mhm.
That was the going rate. So it's not that, it's like we're not thrilled that they're back up there again, but it's kind of the natural progression of things. They couldn't stay, at 3% forever.
Well, I always say 8.5%, 9%. I mean, a lot of my deals I do private money, so I'll pay 10 to 15%.
Sure.
If it works, it works. Okay, I'd rather
Right.
buy something than not buy something.
That's my thinking too.
But
I
isn't
think
it better? Isn't 8.5% better than 100%? Because when you're paying rent, you're
Absolutely.
paying 100% interest. So
100%.
I'm okay.
You're correct.
I'm okay. Give me 10%. I'd rather do that than pay 100%
Yes.
of rent and interest.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, that's
But
a
maybe
good
that's-
topic. It also opens things up for investors too. When's a good
It
time to
does.
invest? When the interest rates go up. Why? Because people are buying less houses. What are they going to do? Rent. So
Yes.
that expands our territory a little bit to say, hey, we're going to have a bigger demand for rental properties.
And we have lately had a bigger demand for properties. So
Yes.
it's a great time for investors to get out there and purchase up those homes.
And so something else to know as a buyer and a seller is, at least for the state of Ohio that I know of, and is the buyer gets to choose the title company.
Yes.
So, as an agent, I can't necessarily go do pre-work and then try to talk somebody into using my title company.
Sure.
Luckily, most of the deals I've done lately, everybody's like, oh yeah, we want to use Liberty too. So I'll give that to you
that's
for a
great to
plug.
hear.
Yes. You really do have a good reputation out there.
Well, thank you.
But what we also see is a lot of the bank-owned properties. So I just bought 2 properties from an agent that represented lenders. One was a bank and the other one was just a private lender. And they already did their pre-title work and had them set up at these national, per se, title companies.
Sure.
And they tell you that, okay, you've got the right to choose your own title company, but if you use our title company, they're going to pay more of the buyer's fees,
I've heard
or
this.
a certain at least
Heard this a time or two.
portion of buyer's fees. So I said, okay, we'll use your title company. And then we get these settlement statements, and the total fees were like $1,800. And these were
Wow.
cash closings. And I'm like, what are we paying for? Your
Right.
mortgage, your rent payment for your building? I don't know, but I was floored,
That's
and
funny.
I attempted to negotiate. I had a $900 closing fee. So the $900 closing fee was more than what we would have paid had we just paid our own buyers' title fees. Our own buyer's title would have been like $550 with everything. I think I figured it out. And I'm like, okay, so it cost my buyer $400 more to go with a company that said they were going to save you money.
So it really is their form of steering the title to whoever they want it to close with.
So, again, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is.
It probably
I'm always going to
is.
throw that one in there. So if you have an agent that's or an agent that's representing a bank, before you agree to it, all you have to do is call the title company and get their fees ahead of time and find out what it's going to be. Because as a buyer, you do have the right to choose your title company. And because of that too, of course, there's the investor discounts because
Yes.
we're coming over and over and over again.
Right.
So
Consider it like shopping in bulk.
yes,
It's a group discount.
you get
the bulk discount. discount.
So, like for me, as soon as I order something, any kind of title work for my buyer,
Mhm.
Bobby and everybody in the back there, they just know what our closing fee is
Yes,
right ahead of
yes.
time. And we always see the same fees. A lot of times with the other title companies, I'm like, I didn't see this fee last time, and they're like, we didn't know you've closed here before.
Oh, so they throw in
And
their
so they're
junk fees.
throwing that junk fee on there.
Right.
I'll admit that the one fee that I hate to see is that retention doc fee,
Mm-hmm.
because I, as a real estate broker, can't charge a retention doc fee because it is law that I have to retain those docs anyways in the course of
Right.
business.
Right.
So I can't charge that. So if a real estate agency
sense.
is charging you that, it's actually not allowed because they can't charge you for something that they're already doing. So
They're already
they'll charge
supposed to
an
do by law.
admin fee, an office administration fee. Which with all these lawsuits, we're going to see a whole bunch of different stuff come up, but that's for another conversation.
I was say,
But,
we could do a whole 30-minute show on just that.
on just the fees. But so make sure that you do understand your fees, and don't be afraid to go, hey,
Don't be
what's
afraid to
this
call us
fee
and
for?
ask, because we'll always put together a pre-settlement statement so you know exactly what to expect at the closing table.
Yeah. So I think that's about all I can think of.
That's a wrap.
And that's a wrap. And it's great to do this video because now when you're working with Liberty, they can put a face with the company.
There we go.
And Amy shows up at a lot of events too. We do a lot of fundraisers around here. We do a lot of stuff for real estate agents
Yeah.
in selling their homes and
A lot of seminars. And
yeah.
things like that.
Actually, they hosted a great continuing ed seminar. They brought
the Home Builders Association. That's
yes,
right.
and the attorneys
in a
came
good
up
speaker.
from Columbus,
Right.
talked more about. So the education.
You know
was
what I loved
fantastic.
about that attorney is he wasn't boring.
I know that was good. That was really good.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
didn't
Why are
give
you saying attorneys are boring?
Maybe dry. Some
Dry.
of them.
Yep.
Not all of them.
Yep. So.
I have
Yeah.
my favorites.
Yep. And that's another thing. When in doubt, contact an attorney.
There you
We will
go.
always tell
There's
you
your
to seek
disclaimer.
legal advice. Yep. Yeah, because we can talk all day long about title and real estate, and the bottom line is it's all legal stuff. So make sure you're protected. But I will
Yep.
finish this up with saying the number one thing that I tell everybody is your insurance is the most important thing you buy, you purchase, whether it's homeowners, title insurance, business insurance. As investors in rental property or even rehabbing, you want to protect your interest, and insurance is what does it. You can title your property and everything under the sun, but the bottom line is when I had somebody fall on a set of stairs and she hired an attorney, all I did was call my insurance.
Right.
That was it.
Then it's
And
out of your
I
hands.
Provided information on what they said to me, and I wrote a $500 check, not a $25,000 check to defend
Right.
me.
Big difference.
Anytime insurance is involved, they have their own team of attorneys. They're going to step in, and you're going to be out of pocket less because
I had
they're
a
defending
very
their
similar
money.
situation happen with title insurance, where an investor friend of mine wanted to purchase a home, and he's like, "Oh, I'm buying it from a friend. He's a good buddy of mine. I don't need any title insurance." I said, "You know what, Jerry? Let me just do a search and see what's on it." There was a $25,000 lien through a Fifth Third Bank that his buddy wasn't trying to pull anything over on him. He did not know that it was recorded against his rental property. He thought it was only recorded against his primary residence.
Oh wow!
So had that gone through and title company missed the lien, whatever, he'd have been stuck with a $25,000 problem that wasn't his.
He didn't
Yeah.
even know.
Yeah.
Yep. So
it
very,
is
very,
so very
important. And as far as doing title searches, by yourself too.
Mhm.
I'm a big sheriff's deeds buyer myself,
Mhm.
and so we do a lot of pre-searches, making sure we're buying first liens, not second liens.
Sure.
But something that we can do too is just shoot a property over to Amy for them to do a quick title search on and make sure that there isn't,
Right.
because what happened years ago when I had a client buying a house, the people had filed bankruptcy and they started foreclosing on the house within 30 days that they weren't
Wow.
allowed to collect.
Oh.
And we found it. And that could have been
Yeah,
quite
that
the
could have been
mess
horrible.
itself. So they actually had to go back and refile all the foreclosure proceedings because they filed it too soon within a period that they were not allowed to collect a debt
What are
on
the
these
chances?
homeowners. So
But
title
yeah, that's-
searches are not just your liens, it's also
Right.
anything against the person if they have IRS
And for a
liens
couple
or anything.
$100, why not?
Yep.
Why not be sure? Be certain.
Well, if 200 saves you 25,000 or 100,000, I think I'm in.
It's 200 well spent.
I think I'm in.
And me too.
So awesome. Thank you for taking some time with me today.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
And with that, we are going to bid you farewell, and we hope you learned something with this conversation today. This is Angela Harding from TPM Realty. Thank you very much.
This is Amy Jones from Liberty Title. Thank you very much.